Hello and welcome to another episode of IT Pro TV. I'm your host Mike Roderick, and with me today is Mr. Sean Oriano. How are you doing, Sean?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. We are continuing on our Kali Linux series, and in this particular episode we're going to be talking about sniffing. And it's one of those things that we've covered in other shows. It's probably something, hopefully, that you've done before, but it plays a big part in penetration testing. We can get a lot of information by sniffing the traffic. And of course, Sean, I don't mean going up to the Ethernet cable and smelling it, right? I know you guys know what we're talking about here, but packet cap, yeah, they can stink. That PVC coating, phew, nasty stuff. But in all seriousness, we're capturing traffic that's traveling across the network, right, is what we mean by sniffers. And there's so many choices. Where do we even start with sniffers?
Sniffers, obviously, it's a big topic. The one that everyone seems to know about is Wireshark. So it's not necessarily that sniffing's a foreign concept to anybody that's in IT. It seems like everyone's used Wireshark and knows what the deal is. But it's worthwhile to just do a quick review, and none of this is going to be targeted specifically towards Wireshark. Yes, we do know about it. It is in Kali to use if you decide that that's the way you want to go. But the purpose of this is to not just give you the option of using Wireshark, but also tell you there are other things there that you can use to accomplish either the same thing Wireshark's doing or modified versions of what Wireshark's doing. So we'll just keep that in mind. But to start off with things, let's talk about what a sniffer is. And you described it pretty well, Mike. It's something that we use to capture traffic as it flows back and forth over a network, and that can be wired or wireless. So we're capturing traffic as it goes back and forth, back and forth. It's really low down in the OSI model where it's catching that. So I'll just see that traffic whether or not it's encrypted or whatever. You just won't be able to read if it's encrypted, but if it's formatted by a certain application, you'll see it. You may not be able to understand the underlying data because an application formatted it, but you'll be able to see it with the sniffer. So there's that aspect of it. Now, what we can use a sniffer for is we can use it to intercept things like credentials and confidential data. Stuff like that is very important to us. But how do they work? Well, sniffer works by turning your wired network card into promiscuous mode. And promiscuous mode means that card goes from being able to see just the traffic either leaving that system or going to that system. It switches it to be able to see anything that's floating by, whether it's addressed to or from that card or to anybody else. So once you're switched in that mode, you will see everything that happens to be swimming by on the cable, no matter who it's addressed to. And therefore, once you have that happening, you can start putting filters and stuff like that in place just to see the information that you want to see. Or you can just choose to capture it all, write it out to a file, and then kind of dissect the file and do what you want offline. That's a possibility as well. So you got some really neat stuff here you can do with sniffers, and basically all of them work in a mode very similar to what I just described, with little variation. Where they start varying from one another is the features, their efficiency, speed, stuff like that are going to make one different from another.
Gotcha. So really, when we talk about sniffing, that's a good concept to understand, that promiscuous mode. Normally that network adapter ignores anything that's not destined for him, right? If it's not him on the destination address, he drops the packet. He's not supposed to receive it. Switch it over to promiscuous mode, and all of a sudden he'll take in all that traffic, and that gives us the ability to capture that information. And most of our network adapters nowadays support that. Most of our operating systems give us the ability to switch into that promiscuous mode.
Yes, it's a very common thing. It's you can expect to see just about any card you run into to support that. Why there are still some cases where they don't support that, those are the exception, not the rule. So don't expect to see a card that won't switch into that. It's been many years since we've had a card, since we really had to deal with cards that were not going to run in promiscuous mode versus the ones we have now. So now it's just a question of, do you have something that can switch it over to promiscuous mode, and do you need to have it in promiscuous mode? Even though a card goes into promiscuous mode, there's very few cases in normal practice that you need to have it. actually go into that mode. Sniffing is one of them that you would need a card to have promiscuous mode to do it the right way. Another reason that you could have a card switch into promiscuous mode is if you had an IDS or IPS, something that's designed to analyze traffic. That has to see everything that's moving by, and then it applies rules to it to see the stuff that's flowing by doesn't match stuff that I know is malicious, and if so, what is going to be my reaction to that? But those are some of those are two of the few cases where you ever need to be in promiscuous mode. Outside of that, if you see something in promiscuous mode, it's now a question of why is it that way, and let's go find out and probably shut it down.
Right. It's probably not doing anything you want it to do, in other words.
Yeah, it really should probably not be that way. And then they actually do catch people that way. They will turn they will have systems on networks, and they will have people that monitor sort of thing where they're watching the traffic go back and forth, and they start seeing other traffic that's indicative of a card someplace being in promiscuous mode, because they'll look at the responses and beacons or whatever you want to call that come out, and they'll say, yeah, that's a card in promiscuous mode, and there's only certain systems we know that are documented that are supposed to be that way, and that's not one of them. So we need to go track that down and figure out why it's that way.
So to run these sniffers and to be able to capture useful information, typically, because usually the information is not coming to my system that I'm using to do this pen test, we got to be able to switch over to promiscuous mode. And then when it comes to sniffers, we've got a whole choice of different tools. Some of them, Sean, capture just everything, and then it's up to us to kind of filter it down. And then there's certain types of sniffers that can really focus, right, on a particular type of traffic.
Yeah, definitely. The sniffers don't necessarily need to pick up everything, and I guess it's probably fair to say that these sniffers are actually seeing all the traffic. It's just what you're actually going to see. So they're when they switch into promiscuous mode, which all these sniffers are going to do. They switch that card to promiscuous mode. It's going to see everything. Now what's happening is that if you only see certain things pop up on your display, it's because it's seeing all that traffic, and it has filters set up saying if it doesn't match these filters, don't display it over here. Still sees everything back here, but it won't display it over here to you. So they're all again still that same process of dealing with information.
So I might be able to take one of those general purpose sniffers and configure my own filters to just capture certain stuff, or I could use one of those ones that's basically set up to just do that already. I don't have to build the filters, and I can just use it, and that's all it captures. Or so I might keep both around, right? I might have one that captures everything when I need it. I got others that are focused on a particular thing. I remember one that we way back when in the CEH class that just captured images. Not the most useful thing, but it was kind of fun to see what pictures people were opening up and looking at. It could also be scary depending on what network you're on. But it was cool that sniffer was designed to just capture images. It didn't capture anything else. And as you said, it still sees everything. It has to determine if it's a picture or not. But in the end, when it all filtered it, so in my results window, all I saw were those images. But we can get ones that are specific to like passwords or a particular type of traffic, or you were saying particular applications. They can get very specific.
Yeah, they definitely can. It's just a question of what are you looking for. You can take something like Wireshark and tweak it to look at specifically what you want it to, but if it's important enough, someone's probably already done it, and you don't have to actually build those filters. So that's something definitely to think about when you're going into something like Wireshark. Wireshark also has some limitations that other sniffers will actually pick up and run with. So that's another thing to remember. It's like anything with software or anything in life. There's nothing that does everything equally well. It's a case of which things can it do well and which things does it not do so well, and what are you willing to put up with on either side. So with that in mind, yeah, we've got all these sniffers that can do different things, and some are very specialized and they're pretty much the only ones that can do it, and other ones they have functionality that could be replicated with more work in a more general purpose sniffer.
All right. Well, I tell you what, Sean. Let's talk about some of these sniffers then. Start getting into them, and maybe take a look at a few of them.
Yeah, that's we can take a look at them. We probably should take a look at one of the first or talk about one of the first things that is important is the stuff we're looking at from the get-go here is going to be stuff that is on a non-switch network. We're using a hub, so we're not talking about those switched networks yet. So we will get to those because those are a special case. So we're not taking into account that we have all the extra hardware out there that's segmenting the network out, like the router, switches, all that. We're just going to say, hey, everything's open, and now we can start just sniffing. So what can we use to do that? Well, really, any sniffer is going to be able to do that. Any sniffer is going to be able to sniff on a network that's got a hub in play, and this is also one of the reasons why, by the way, hubs are not as popular as they once were, because something goes in on one port, it comes out all the other ones. And so since they work that way, you can be anywhere on that network where that hub is plugged in and pick up traffic. And so it's a big security problem. So they've kind of just started putting those out to pasture. Doesn't mean they don't exist, but it just means that there's a problem, and they've kind of limited where they're deployed now, and they've replaced some of in a lot of cases where hubs were used, they put switches in place now to make things safer and more secure. So, but anyway, this is just a passive type of sniffing. This is the stuff we're talking about is doing it passively using our just off-the-shelf sniffers to do so. Okay, let's start talking about sniffers by taking a look at them and how they work. Like I said, we've got a lot of sniffing tools available inside of Kali. If we go under the Kali Linux menu, we can see under our sniffing menu, not only do we have some well, there you go, a bunch of network sniffers. We've also got some other tools and goodies in there that can help us out. I mean, we've got our network sniffers. We've got stuff for for voice, and they say voice and surveillance, voice over IP, just in case you want to do that. And look how ready they are. They got plenty of tools just to mess with that. And then you got stuff for the web. The stuff over here on the web, that's really for web applications. So it's not working down at the network level, it's working up at the application level. So that's kind of a different beast, and we're not going to worry about those too much right here. We're going to worry about the network level stuff. So with that being said, what we have is we'll take a look at the network sniffers, and the one that everyone knows about. We have we've got Wireshark. Now you'll notice when Wireshark comes up, it throws a bunch of warnings at us and all that. And the thing about it is that what we get here that we don't get in Windows is if you're familiar with it over there, you'll get warnings saying, hey, by the way, it's going to disable some stuff and do some things because, hey, you're not running administrator mode. If you want to run in administrator mode, you could do the sudo, the sudo, and then do Wireshark and enter your password when prompted, and then it will remove some of those restrictions. But then again, you're also weakening the system for a certain point in time by doing that. I didn't bother doing that, so I saw the warning saying, oh, by the way, some features are disabled. For what we're talking about, it's probably not even going to matter. So all I have to do now is I've told it to listen on ETH0. I do a start, and I can do something simple like opening up a browser window and just typing something in. I'll do the IT Pro TV site, and when I go over to here, let me slide this down. You can see what we're familiar with. We've seen this a bunch of times before in our CEH class. That's just a standard network traffic. Nothing really special. And we could do all the little things like set up filters and all that good stuff. So really no problem there. We're seeing what we would expect. So that's one sniffer. Just kind of wanted to show you that one. There's already is a course on Wireshark. Wireshark was covered again in the CEH. We covered it in the DFI course too, so it's had some coverage already. Right now, we'll kind of not worry about it since it's had that, but just to let you know, it is there, and there are some things it does kind of chatter away about, but it does run and does do its job. So let me go ahead and I'll just close that one. I am not going to save any of that. Just close right out. Oops, and there we go. So I've got that as a sniffer. Now there are other ways of capturing traffic, of course. One that I like to point out, it's another one that you have available to you, is one called EtherApe. EtherApe, let's see if maybe I'll have to restart that a bit. But what EtherApe does, I had this running when I was playing around with stuff, so I broke it. My fault. So what I'm going to do is, let me see if I can start up EtherApe again here. So what EtherApe does is, there you go. It doesn't look like much is happening, but if I were to open up my browser again here, I'm trying to induce traffic that it can monitor. So I will just do that again and go and click. If I go over to EtherApe, what's happening there, it's not showing you the traffic, but it is showing you what this system is actually attaching to. So if you look at it, you can actually see those things are pulsating a bit and doing the little magic. What's happening there is those are active connections going out to all those systems, and it's telling me that, hey, when you attach to the IT Pro TV site, it's dialing up connections to these other guys. So I could look up those IP addresses on there or DNS names on there and see who that is. Those could be things like advertising networks or what have you. The different colors do tell you different things. If you look down the left-hand side, you probably can't read it too well on the screen here, but if you look down the left-hand side, you can see it's got different colors over there. It's telling you, well, those different colors correspond to a specific protocol type. So it's kind of a neat thing. It's not giving you specific traffic at that level, but it is telling you, giving you kind of a way to visualize it. And I kind of like this tool because when you look at it, it very quickly and easily shows you how things are flowing back and forth from the various systems. And so you can get an idea of, well, my system's attaching to this one, and this one, and then sometimes you'll see the individual systems pass traffic amongst themselves. And it's really a fascinating look to see how things work. It also shows you, I'm not touching anything right now. All I have right there is, well, there's some traffic going into that machine because I'm I'm broadcasting out some video up so you guys can see it, seeing that, and there's some stuff going on my host machine, but I'm just sitting here and I'm not doing much. You can see I got my hands off and it's doing things. So that's a chatty system.
Look, Ma, no hands.
Yeah, pretty much.
So yeah, it really is. It's capturing the traffic. You're not seeing the raw packets, so it's more of like a protocol analyzer. Give me the ability to see what connections are being made. Again, discover IP addresses that I didn't know about, systems that I didn't know about, seeing what protocols are being used on that network, because maybe I've got some tools that I can then capture that specific type of traffic, or maybe I want to go back to my Wireshark packet dump and now filter it. I saw a whole lot of certain type of traffic going on using EtherApe or EtherApe, and now I go back to Wireshark and I filter it and find those actual packets and look for it. So just another great tool to have in the tool bag there. Yeah,
it's just helping you visualize that information in a different way, because realistically, just looking at stuff as it flows by on Wireshark, we can look at that and analyze it. We can, heck, I know people that can go all matrix on that stuff and do that to a certain degree, but they're still, because of how rapid that traffic passes and how quickly it accumulates, it still poses a big challenge to sort through. This tool just happens to be one with EtherApe happens to be one that helps ease that process. Right. So it's not a bad thing to have something like that in your arsenal. So that's just one that you could run on your system. But again, there are other ones out there. So we'll take a look at DriftNet and what it does. So what I've done to set this up, as you can see, I've got DriftNet running back here. What I did is did DriftNet space -I space ETH0. And you should recognize that now as saying, well, run the DriftNet command and have it observe what's going on the ETH0 interface. You could change it to whatever you want. If you have multiple network interfaces, you can definitely do that. So I only have the one, so I'm going to leave it just with ETH0. But you can see it's not doing anything, just sitting there. What it did is it actually opened up that box. Nothing in the box. So what I'll do is I will go over and I will just find a website, something that's got graphics or something that I know is going to be gonna pop up here. So I could do something like I typed in like a video gaming site, something that I know is going to have some images on it, and you can see what's happening there as it goes through. You can see the images actually pop up. All the Sniffer's doing is it's harvesting those images as they go by. It looks at the traffic and says, okay, this data and these payloads, that's all the same image. It assembles them and displays them there. So
as like that one I was talking about earlier, that just focuses on the pictures then.
Yeah, that's exactly what that one is.
Nice.
So it's and you can see as you go to different sites. If I type in this is a kind of like a funny news site, you can see as it goes through that, it will start doing the same thing. It starts popping stuff up on screen and just scrolling right by and saying this is what I found on this site. Nice. So it's pretty neat when you start taking a look at it. You start seeing all these these things flow by. I don't know in a practical sense how really good it is, but
still good to see the fact that they've got these sniffers that are very focused, right? I didn't have to write any filters, didn't have to do anything crazy. This one grabs images, and we can find others that are specific to certain things. So that's a very handy stuff.
Yeah, it can be a good way to kind of see what people are looking at in your on your network. I've heard of places do that, having done stuff like that, and they're just, why do we do that?
Yeah. All right, well, I tell you what, Sean, I know we got more that we want to talk about Sniffers, but looking at our clock, we're about out of time for this episode. So let's go ahead and call it here, and we'll do another episode on sniffing. Sound like a plan?
Sounds good.
All right, well, hope you guys enjoyed watching this one. Signing off for IT Pro TV, I'm Mike Roderick.
And I'm Sean Ariano.
And we'll see you next time.